Hello everyone, I'm here with a presentation on The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost for Class 9th NCERT. Before we move on for the poem, let's see the introduction. The road not taken symbolizes our life. The poet says that the path that we don't choose in our life is the road not taken. He describes his feelings about the choice that he had left in the past. The path which we have chosen decides a future or destination. The important message that the poet wants to give is that the choice that we make has an impact on our future, and if we make a wrong choice, we regret it but cannot go back on it. So, we must be wise while making our choices. Moving on for the explanation of the poem, the first stanza. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. In this paragraph, the poet has beautifully described that once the poet was walking down a road and then there was a diversion. There were two different paths and he had to choose one out of them. The poet says that as he was one person, he could travel on one road only. He had to choose one out of these two roads. Yellow wood means a forest with leaves which are wearing out and they have turned yellow in color, the season of autumn. It represents a world which is full of people, where people have been living for many years. They represent people who are older than the poet. The poet kept standing there and looked at the path for very carefully as far as he could. Before taking the path, he wanted to know how it was. Was it suitable for him or not? He was able to see the path till from where it curved, after which it was covered with trees and was hidden. It happens in a life also. When we have choices, we have alternatives, but we have to choose only one out of them. We take time to think about the pros and cons, whether it is suitable for us or not, and only then we take a decision on what path we should choose. Stanza 2. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted bare. Though, as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. The poet kept on looking at one path for a long time to check if it is the right path for him or not, and then he decided and started walking on another path because he felt that the both paths were equally good. He says that as fair so that he felt that both paths were equally good and started walking on one of them. He adds that maybe he felt that the path was better for him, so he chooses it had grass on it, which means that it was unused. Not many people had walked on this path earlier. That is why this path was grassy. And wanted where means that it was not walked over by many people. After he walked on the path for some distance, he realized that both the paths had been worn out the same way. Both the paths were similar and worn out. Even in our life, we take any path or option, but all of them have the same benefits, disadvantages, problems, challenges, and we must face them. We think that we are choosing a better option, but it is not that way. Stanza 3. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way. I doubted if I should ever come back. The poet says that both the paths were similar that morning. Both had leaves on them and no one had stepped on them as they were still green in color. He decided that he would take one path and keep the other path for another day. Although he knew that one way leads to another way, he knew that he could not go back on the choices he had made. Similarly, even in our life, once we choose an option, we must keep on moving ahead with that option, and we never get a chance to come back and take the another option that we had left earlier. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by. and then has made all difference. He says that in future he will take a deep breath and say that once upon a time he had reached such a point in life that there were two options for him, and he traveled on that road which had been traveled upon by lesser number of people. That decision was decided his future. Similarly, in future, when you grow up, then you will say that once upon a time when you were young, you had two options. The choices that you made you what you become of it. This is a very strong message for all students that you should be wise and be careful while making choices out of the options that you have in your life, because your future depends on the choices that you make today. The literary devices used in this poem are the rhyming scheme AB, AAB, symbolism, two roads which represent two or more choices in a life, anaphora, repeated at the beginning of the lines 2, 3, and 4, alliteration, wanted where W sound is repeated, first for F sound is repeated, and though that TH sound is repeated. Repetition, ages is repeated, two rows diverge in a word. This sentence is repeated in stanza 1 and stanza 4. Here is a brief summary for you. Hope you like it. Thank you.